I'll pop that on now.
Is everybody happy? I should ask, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's recording now.
Thanks, Ripley. Thanks, Veronica.
Okay, I'm just waiting for it to go into presentation mode. Right, can you all see that? Can you see it?
Yep, we can see it. It's great.
Oh.
Put it into presentation mode though.
Oh, okay. You can hear me and see it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We can see all the
great.
slides down the side. I don't know if you want to put it into slideshow mode.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here, my first time. And my contribution is about the bubbles of tension in medical students' learning and my immersion in these tensions. My background is physiotherapy, but I work in the Department of Obstetrics part-time, and I think it's an advantage not being an obstetrician and not assessing students. So I'll be sharing with you aspects of my teaching and my recent PhD research, and it relates to students learning about birthing on the clinical platform, where they are initiated into this process. And we always think of a birth as something joyful, celebratory, but actually what emerges is a very different challenge to students, a backstory. And here is a student's drawing that gives an idea of that. I'll be referring to some of the students' drawings and texts from my research, just to elicit these tensions and how hectic it is in the space for myself as an educator and for the students. So there's a lot of discomfort, and as Julieta Singh says, it's complex and it's also very difficult to articulate. And I realized that a trigger for my interest in this aspect of teaching was working with an unethical line manager. And then hearing students' experiences and stories and being horrified and thinking, what is going on? What kind of doctors are we producing? And what is happening in their immersion in the curricular tasks? So I'll just read you my submission for this conference, because it's really a summary of what will be following. It matters which stories are told. Their stories become my stories. Thinking thoughts bounce within and around me among the turbulence and flows connected to concealed violence in obstetrics. Engaging in the surface tension over the past 12 years through performances, Google Drive, and conversations, blowing away my breath at times, moving us into unexpected spaces and places. I prick, panic, and burst some bubbles. A disruption to enable a flight for activism emerging from a meaningful curricular event. What matters in the mattering of students, we ask. So bursting bubbles has brought me into the in-between spaces. And rather than coding and looking at themes, I found hotspots that have glowed, as Maggie McClure points out, is a useful post-qualitative approach. And I found that much more exciting than following the structure of themes. And here a student shows these different agendas that we face, that I hear about all the time. A woman in labor is being told about family planning, what to do. Students are thinking about their logbooks and the other curricular tasks and their time constraints, because they move into a new discipline after 8 weeks and they have to have everything finished. And then the systemic.
Veronica, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I'm just wondering if we're not seeing your slideshow properly because we're still on the
Okay.
first slide.
Okay, I will, is this better?
So we're still, I think, just seeing your cover slide. It's not actually in the slideshow mode, the screen that I think we're all seeing.
Can
So
you see
now
it now?
That's definitely a different slide, yes. But it's still not maybe in the mode of presentation.
If you like,
It was.
I could help you. I'm just going to request if you want to share yours.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to see because you were talking about the drawings.
Oh no, we've got the time. I'd much rather you. So could you not see it at all?
No, we can see it as though it's ready to go, but you haven't quite clicked on to slideshow. So it's sort of just,
okay. Oh, good. Someone's clicked for me. Is that better?
Just hang on, Veronica. My computer's thinking. Hopefully I'll be able to help you out in a minute.
I think it might just be the difference between your screen that you're working from and the actual presentation screen, but it sounds like someone else can better help you with that.
I also shared a PDF of the PowerPoint. I sent it to the Critical Autoethnography website.
Okay,
I mean, email.
Okay,
So I
just hang
wonder
on
whether
then.
showing that PDF
I can help you with that.
work.
We've got time. Mine is short.
Okay, no, I think that might work better because then if someone else is showing that PDF, then and there's just one audio that I can play. I can go to my screen to play.
Veronica, would you like to, if you could post your PDF in the chat, I can grab it from there. Are you able to do that?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I have to stop sharing screen. Plan B. My computer's taking time. Sorry about this. Does anyone want to ask any questions? Okay, go to the chat. Wait, stop sharing. Because you are remote, I think, Liz, you controlling my screen, so I can't stop sharing. Because you're now in control.
Yeah, I just gave it back to you, so you should be okay to.
Mine says Liz is controlling your screen. It still says that.
Okay, we should be good now. If you'd like to post it into the chat file.
I'm not able to wait. I'm not able to go to the chat because I'm here. File name, chat, upload. It's not allowing me to. I know what. Why don't I go totally off, close up, and reconnect on Zoom? Do you think that, because it still says Liz is controlling your screen?
That's strange. Just bear with me. I'll go in. Did you send it to the Critical Autoethnography?
So you guys can't see anything. What can you see at the moment?
We can't see your PowerPoint at the moment. What's the easiest way?
I'm going to try to share the PDF. So if you just bear with me, just take me a moment. Just going to manipulate a couple of things around. We'll get there, Veronica.
My screen is frozen. So I'm going onto my iPad and, oh wait, there. I'm going to go onto my iPad and see. Okay, I'm on presentation mode now. Can you see it? I've got controller. Can you see my screen?
No.
No. So how about I help you out here? I'm going to share the PDF
Okay, I'm escaping. I'm going to close off.
Okay, so hopefully, can you all see?
I'm closing off completely because my wow, this is hectic. I've never had this before. Okay, so now
So can you all see that now?
We can see the screen and we can hear you speaking with Veronica. So
what would
but
you
I
like?
can't see it. Oh, okay, there I can see it on the side. Okay, is that the start? You're on the start of my presentation, am I correct?
I'm up to slide 3. So if you'd like to just let me know which slide you'd like to go to, and I can forward it to the next slide.
I can, okay, let me just go to, wow, this is tricky because my screen's showing the first slide. Okay, if you could, how do I open this? Right. Basically, my Zoom seems to be, I've never had this before. My Zoom seems to be, wait, let's just try. If you don't mind just waiting for 2 minutes.
Just wondering if this is an opportunity for those 35 Shirley Bassey numbers. I'm ready. Boys.
Yeah, I am.
Somebody give me a C.
Go for it, Pete. It's a good interval.
I'm always concerned that mine is too short. So this is great for me.
Does anyone want to share highlights of the conference so far?
I love Denise's poetry making today. That was really fun and inspiring, and yeah, that was a really nice way to come together. So that was awesome. Everything I've heard today has been fantastic, but that was definitely, I think, just coming together like that is good.
Yeah, I thought it was almost like I could feel Denise in the room with me.
Mm-hmm.
No, she was just so hilarious. I think it was a good thing that I was on mute and didn't have my video on, because seriously, I was falling off my chair just in laughter. Her voice, right? It's just, it's hilarious. But yeah, so far, definitely her session.
Yeah. Definitely evokes joy.
Victoria, I didn't see your name there before. How are you?
Yeah, I'm still alive. Can you believe it?
Thankfully. Yes,
Yeah. But we won't say that out too loud. My husband's around the corner. No.
Hello.
Hi, Veronica.
Oh, yay. We have liftoff.
Okay, I've got my computer's completely frozen, but I'm using my iPad here. Can you see me?
Yeah. Can you see the screen that I'm sharing, Veronica?
I can see the screen.
Excellent. So which slide?
So I'm not sure whether we'll miss the audio of my student, but what I'll do is that I've actually recorded me talking to the slides, which was also plan C. So I can submit that for your Vimeo,
Yep.
where it all goes smoothly. So I've got that back up. Okay, so did you hear me reading this page?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Right, so I refer to Maggie McClure's concept of hotspots that glow that I found very useful and interesting. Next, please. So here is a student's drawing showing the different agendas that are apparent in the birthing process. A woman in labor being given instructions on what to do with contraception in terms of baby care, the students watching and thinking about their logbooks, which I'll talk about more later, and about the time constraints that they face, and then the systemic issues of overburdened midwives, under-resourced spaces, and limitations such as not enough sterile gloves. Next, please. So I'm fortunate to be with the students before they go into obstetrics to elicit their emotions, which is an aspect that is often left out in medical education. And with every group of students, they share their excitement at going into obstetrics. It's a moment when they feel like real doctors. But with every set of students, there's also that sense of nervousness, apprehensiveness, trepidation, some even terrified at going into obstetrics for the first time, moving onto the clinical platform. Next, please. At the end of their 8 weeks, I facilitate a workshop with them, and I hear students sharing how frustrated they are at what they've seen and witnessed. They feel overwhelmed and they recognize their conflicting messages. And there's a sense of guilt sometimes and even traumatized. Some of them are traumatized. Next, please. So through the research process, I decided to write a blog to help me write about the theoretical concepts I was working with. And it was really for myself, but what's been interesting is that this blog has had nearly 40,000 views. Next, please. Here is a student sharing her discomfort. She was relating an incident where she witnessed a woman being cut, which we call an episiotomy, to facilitate the birth. And this woman wasn't given appropriate analgesics. She wasn't explained anything. There was no proper informed consent. And the student was shocked. Next, please. So initially I thought this was a South African phenomenon, a legacy of our apartheid and discriminatory practices. But what's come to light is that it's actually a global problem. And here is a copy of the guidelines put out by WHO on the prevention and elimination of disrespect and abuse during facility-based childbirth. Next, please. So my role has been to make visible the invisible, to shift from a culture of silence and hiding these issues to actually opening up a dialogue, to bring awareness to the students and to grapple with these difficult issues. And the theoretical insights that I've used have come from Rosie Bradotti mostly and Karen Barad, as I've tried to look affirmatively at these social injustices. Next, please. Some of you may be familiar with the beautiful wines from the Western Cape in areas near to where I live. And I love going and walking through the vineyards and thinking. And these lines of vines remind me of the curriculum, which is so linear. And it is aimed at reaching graduation in a chronological time, with an endpoint of graduation and moving into the workplace as a new medical officer and intern. Next slide. But what is more useful is to think of aeon time, that recognizing the multiple forces entangled in the curriculum. So as we try and find these beautiful fruits, we need to actually be more aware of this becoming, the cyclical action. Next slide, please. So aeon chronos time is more authoritative and it's institutional, while aeon time is far more transformative and empowering, becoming in a cyclical manner. And I've realized for myself, listening and re-listening to these students' experiences and grappling with these issues has become far more meaningful in an iterative way as well, and recognizing that students' experiences stay with them. It's not like it closes off at graduation. And in fact, our head of department has been incredibly supportive because she's close to retirement, but actually that fourth year experience when she witnessed abuse in obstetrics stays with her, and actually helped to initiate these workshops that used to be, initially were called abuse in obstetrics, and then we moved it to me and my dilemmas. Next slide, please. Assemblage thinking has been helpful as I grapple with these topics and with the experiences and the stories, because we are relational beings, and what is affecting our capacity to act and be acted upon. So affect has also been hugely helpful. Next slide, please. Here is an example of what I often hear. I'm just a student. I can't lay a complaint against a doctor who's held in high esteem. It doesn't seem that it would bear any good fruit. I couldn't do it. And the next slide, please. And here another student is saying, it's the medical hierarchy that is so entrenched in medicine, and people create the kingdoms and then they crush those below. Next slide, please. So students learn about human rights, about compassion, kindness, ethics, but actually frequently they see something very different. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, the logbook has become a hotspot in my work, and students need sign-offs. The logbook records their skills and the knowledge gained with ticks in boxes and these signatures. But what else are these logbooks doing, I ask? Next slide, please. The logbooks are actually set up as a representation of accountability and assumed to be inert and passive. But what I see and hear all the time is that they have an incredibly powerful force. Next slide, please. Here I've got an audio recording, which will come in the recording that I'll share with the organizers. But here, I've also got a text where a student said, I think in a lot of cases, we actually wanted to say something on behalf of the patient, but you can't because there's the logbook and you need it signed, and the system might get upset and then mark it as dissatisfactory and it affects your marks. So we don't want to do that. I think if we didn't have that logbook forming a boundary, then we'd be able to speak up for some patients. Next slide, please. So the signature logbook student becomes a dynamic apparatus that is powerful. And it actually diverts attention from patient care and justice, social justice, and it creates a barrier for quality care. But yet the students have to get it, have to have it signed. Next slide, please. So I find Karen Barrad's work really helpful, and this phrase is useful: meeting each moment, being alive to the possibilities of becoming is an ethical call, an invitation that is written into the very matter of all being and becoming. And then lastly, I return to my blog to really illustrate how I continue to grapple as I continue to hear the same stories that I heard 11 years ago, with so many efforts to change practices, but abuse, neglect, and disrespect in many ways has become entrenched in the system and become normalized. And I refer to Holtman and Lenz Taguchi, who say, what we do as researchers intervenes with the world and creates new possibilities, but evokes responsibilities. Next slide, please. So thank you. I'm really sorry about the glitches. If we have time, if anyone's interested, I'll try and get my computer working and play the audio, but otherwise it will be on the video that I'll share later. So I really look forward to more discussion. Thanks everyone, and thanks for working with the PDF. And I'll try and get onto my machine as well.
Thanks, Veronica, and thanks for staying so calm and collected. It was so wonderful to be able to hear your work, and there's lots of questions I'm keen to ask, but I'm also keen to hear from Donna. So if it's okay, we'll move to your presentation, Donna, and then we'll have hopefully a good 15 minutes at the end to chat together.
Fantastic. Thanks everyone for being patient and tolerant.
Finding my way out of Zoom. Weirdly, I have not used Zoom very much in the last year.
What have you been using instead of Zoom?
Oh, we're on Teams at work, or I learn Collaborate Ultra for teaching. So I think I've done a yoga class or two on Zoom, and that's about it. So, all right, I think I'm nearly here. Okay. So, changing direction, I guess, a little bit, inevitably. So my autoethnography was originally titled Chasing Rainbows, an autoethnography of the in-between. Can everyone hear me okay? I thought I'd just double check before I get started.
Yeah, it's good.
All good? Okay. She chases rainbows as I chase words, knowing that beauty fades but dumb is forever. She finds herself tangled in ribbons of spectral dreams and blurred realities, the kaleidoscopic ifs, buts, and maybes of life and writing, both a blessing and a curse. Looking for answers to the questions she doesn't know to ask. Her days are a rainbowed roulette of too much and not enough. Her colours alternately softened, muted, or heightened, threatening and all-consuming. She teeters between red and blue, sunshine and indigo oblivion, a violet peace, an amber orange panic. Watch now as she unravels before your very eyes. Her stories are shortened, prefaced always by the unsaid, a world made smaller, a life made smaller, boundaries and borders and life disrupted. Short stories, ruptures of being and believing, hanging in and holding on. Her words turn at their will to meditating on time, on the fleeting and the ineffable. She walks toward wonder, the pot of gold at the end of the proverbial, seeking, striving, wanting, swerving, rage before beauty. Red. The mean reds are horrible. Suddenly you're afraid and you don't know what you're afraid of. Do you ever get that feeling? Holly goes lightly, inevitably, an earworm of the highest order. It's mean, this redness of the ever now. The reds are MRIs and mammograms, the uncertainties of ultrasounds and the who knows what nows of this could be, maybe, might be. Who knows? The kids at school were wrong. It's the shitty bitty titty committee. She digresses. Red is the color of the unknown, the color of borders, lockdowns, and crisis ordinariness, the insomnia of full-mooned ruminations on ruined nations and ruination of kin and kind and the hazy here and now and maybe. Red is waiting and failed desire and know-nothing news. She feels the distance between us measured in shades of crimson, vermilion, and rust. Red is the trauma of the in-between, the stretched out now, a sensorium of history unfolding. Red is the collective crisis, the modern condition. It's the unraveling that hurts. She pulls herself up and dusts herself off, shakes the red from her hair and the dust from her skin. No one can be red forever. Despair before respair. Orange. Orange is not my color. Orange is the half-empty, half-full torturing of mind and meaning. Orange. No rhyme, nor reason for the skewed perspective on the color of creation. Toxic positivity and tangerine nightmares. This is my orange. Orange is the blinking of camera on and the I feel bad about my neckness of online connectedness. She types hard as she writes this, some cathartic consequence tangled in the typing of vanity and virtual reality. Take that, orange. Orange is the live, laugh, love of platitudes and precarity, poisoned knowledge and tangible ignorance, the amber alerts of dread and futility and vapid good vibes only. Orange is the patriarchy personified in endless emails, and orange can fuck off. Orange refuses to leave. Orange tells me good things are coming. I should choose joy and keep choosing joy and take time to make my soul happy and spread love wherever I go, although clearly I'm not going anywhere. I should be kind. Positivity is a choice. A choice, my friends, a choice. I can decide on my vibe. I am so blessed. But I'm done with decisions and I am all out of happy. Orange is exhausting and unfair. Life is unfair, says Orange, adding, with grating perkiness, Your attitude determines your altitude. Your attitude will be my undoing, I reply. I'll rise, but I refuse to shine. She stumbles on her rainbow walk, dazed by the light of the "my way is right" and the aura of burnt offerings of abundance and accidental truth-telling. She retains her right to negativity, cynicism, skepticism. She's a realist. It's a bit of a problem. She'll bring balance to the universe, though, but she can't help but think that orange just might come and bite her in the yellow. Yellow is good mornings, gold stars and good books, citrus bliss and sunshine, horizons and doorstep deliveries, unexpected flowers, and the joy of light-giving. Yellow is the notion that there is no such thing as false hope. There is only hope. Yellow is three good things. Her yellow is baths, Ugg boots, and a good night's sleep. Umbrellas, chocolate, and musicals. She lays these out in rituals of self-care, fuzzy socks, British comedy, and dresses with pockets. Sometimes it rolls off the tongue, this quick accounting of pretty, petty things. Sometimes. Other times, she lays these out in rituals of quiet desperation, negotiating with the gods of gratitude. I am blessed. I am thankful. Make me happy. In this rainbowed wandering, she flirts with joy and wrangles fear, stuck in this savage dialectic of time and the endless in-between, torn by toxic optimism and the lure of sinking, crashing, drowning in the ever after. Yellow can take the edge off. She is the chroma chameleon of interpersonal emotion. Her days are swings and roundabouts of light and shade. This endless carousel, a Crayola color-wheeling spectrum of hues and tones that veil and bubble and toil and trouble and filter her every day in the space, place, time, where this rumor narrative of hers, of mine, circles, twists and turns and bubbles up and round and back again in fragile, tangled threads of ever now and evermore. She's broken rainbows and twisted dreams, reflection and resentment. In deep breaths and deeper, darker thoughts, she finds her yellow and takes it with her when she goes. Green. Green is grass and soil in a taunting almost springtime. Newness and freshness and the clarity of knowing, promises fulfilled, promises made, boldness of beginnings, dewdrops and raindrops and whiskers on somethings. Green is big magic, big mystery. She'll not be satisfied with stories. She wants to roll down a hill sideways and fall for it all, forgetting for once the probability of disappointment, of danger. Green is less logic and all passion. She's immersion and experience, embodied knowledge, out of her head and into her heart, all sensation and no nonsense. But she's not sure how to do this. Her green is nearly always aspirational. She half slides, half falls, half forgetting, but the nonsense follows. It's not easy being green. Her anyway. But blue, well, blue is her oblivion, escape, avoidance, the prolonging of any problem. Blue is the bleak familiar, the sheer, unrelenting now seen from the shadow side. Blue is big, stupid oceans and too far away to touch, and love, no place to go. Blue is the grieving of possibility. Blue is 4 walls and no door. Blue is the inevitable cliche, boredom, and words that won't come when called. She's stuck in a story with nowhere to go. Her indigo self submits, bending to the edges of the ever after, evermore, sinks to the knees of the in-between, some soft balancing of peace and submission, inevitability and acceptance, a mindful knowing of the only thing is nowness that flits and taunts and occasionally, rarely, but oh so inevitably, alights only in the afterglow of living, laughing, loving. She succumbs to these strange inclinations, these musings, and listens to the secrets of silence. The universe whispers, and she offers up her deep blue somethings to follow the fool's gold prize. Live, laugh, love, she says to herself, trying it on for size. Indigo acknowledges the paradox, the inconsistency, the sheer orangeness of her words, and whispers an apology for what came before. Sometimes the platitudes win, she says. She blames Violet. Her Violet is an unreliable narrator who doesn't know if she's coming or going. She'll lure you in with pretty words that might mean nothing. She's the fragile, dawn-light dreaming that hinges on faith, edges on optimism. The crushed petals of deep, dark fear, the velvet violence of hope. Violet is fragile, recovering, responding to any possibility for happiness. Violet is not to be trusted. Violet is the siren of skywriting and the queen of disappearing ink. Violet is tricksy and talks in riddles. Make of it what you will. It's all about light, she says. Refractions and reflections and angles and perspectives. Walk forward and turn at 60 degrees. The principle is primary. Even deep blue shadows are a company of a kind. The trick is knowing how to leave all your colors behind. That's when you'll find the pot of gold. Ugh, conscious beauty, says my mean red. Never attractive. What is this, some pathetic literary lost in wonderland? How very red of you, Green thinks, but doesn't say, taking a tumble instead. She's had enough of words. Be kind, says Orange, of course. She can't help herself, though she should always try. Be happy, says Yellow. Be present, says Indigo. Bite me, says Blue. While privately noting Violet said when, not where. It's all about time again, she sighs. It's always about time. It seems inevitable, this falling to pieces of self and story in the face of the crisis ordinary. Our heartbreak is nothing new. Our colors too much and not enough. My muses are lost in the in-between, chasing rainbows and looking for a pot of gold. Orange won't shut up. Time heals all wounds, she says. Time wounds all heals, I say, just to be perverse. But I'm afraid they might all be a little bit right. Maybe time is the live, laugh, love of trauma. My colours go quiet. Violet exhales softly, disturbing the silence. It's a plot of gold, she laments, shaking her head. People always get that wrong. And I've frozen on screen, so I don't know what happened there in the last few minutes. But I'm done, in case you couldn't tell.
Thanks, Donna. You're still moving from where we're sitting, so.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we could hear you and see you. Thank you. What an amazing piece. Just beautiful, as always. And how fanciful, imagine if colours, imagining colours in that way.
Yeah.
I love the beginning, I love the middle, I love the end, but I think the beginning when you said beauty fades but dumb is forever, I think I'll remember that for a little while. For me, like when I think about colour, it's colour for me is really interesting. I have colour vision difference, which is sometimes called colour blindness. So your purple could very well be my brown. Your blue could be my green. And I was thinking about the relationships we all have with colours is a deeply personal one, and showed that really well. I've been thinking about colours for a long time now. Who would like to ask any questions, any comments?
I have a question.
Sorry, I'm just going to jump out and come back in because I'm totally frozen here. I'll be back in a second.
Problem.
So I'm not the only one whose computer froze this morning. Well, for me, it's morning. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened. My Zoom is totally frozen to a point where I can't even get out of it. So.
It was beautiful, Donna. Thank you. From the Rainbow Nation.
Thank you.
And you had your hand up. Did you want to ask a question?
Thank you, Liz. Yeah, my question is for Veronica. Veronica, I'm speaking to you from the west coast of Australia, and so hello. Veronica, I've worked twice in medical schools, so I could really relate, having worked in 2 Australian medical schools, to what you were saying. And I was very interested in your observations on a couple of matters, but one about that deep disjoint between what we teach in terms of the values and inspirational values that we try to embed in medical curricula, but also the students' actual experience when they go into clinical placements, for example, into hospitals. I think it might be more a comment as much as a question, Veronica, but just that I too have observed that deep disjoint in the students' learning experience between them, those very beautiful values that we embed in and try to aspire into, especially their undergraduate years, and in Australia, it's in their first few years, and the disjoint between that and what they experience when they're out on the wards, so to speak. I might let you respond to that, and then if there's time, I've got another question or comment for you, Veronica.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. I'm thinking of Donna's pot of gold and thinking how obstetrics ought to be students' pot of gold, but actually it's this crevice and hole and donga. And a lot of my engagement with the students is encouraging them to say and to enable them to see it not as a personal issue, but a systemic issue. that, you know, sometimes the students say, I don't know whether medicine's still for me. So it's like catching them as they're falling into this hole in many ways, which is often ignored. So I'd love it to be a pot of gold, but it's, as I say, there's no easy solution. And interesting that Australia, in Western Australia, you've seen it as well. So in the last kind of 6 years, there's been an emerging movement with international people working together. So there's hope, but we've got a long way to go to get to that pot of gold.
Yes, we have to keep on working, don't we? Just very quickly, I'll finish off because I know others have got questions, but we also found that logbooks were like this steering wheel that was driving us in directions we didn't want to go. And I also just wanted to, again, I'm not quite sure I've got a question. I think it's a comment about just that value of turning silence into a dialogue and the actions that you've taken. I was just so inspired by that, that it's such a significant stance isn't the right word. It's such a significant intervention that you've run. And I'm really wishing you well and hoping that's achieving the very good things that you're aiming for. I think it's a very powerful thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been difficult and pretty much being alone as well, because people like using post-humanism and new materialism, people kind of say we don't understand what you're talking about in medicine because medicine's such a structured language. So yeah, thank you very much. All support, all efforts are helpful.
We are just almost at time, but I guess just to kind of wrap things up, one of the things I was just thinking about is the linking between the two of your papers, which at the face of it might seem really different, but one of the things I was really taken with is kind of the ethical imperatives of the in-between and what happens at the in-between. And Donna, you shared a very poetical, to use this Colleen Susu phrase, take on that in terms of how we grapple with those moments of trauma, despair, hope, ridicule, at that in-between. And Veronica, yours was also very much around the in-between. I don't know if any of you come from a music ethnography background or have read much music ethnography, but there's a wonderful piece by Elizabeth Koskoff, Carol Robertson, called The Ethnomusicologist as Midwife. And
can you put it in the chat? I'd love to know more about it.
Yeah, and she writes about, she says, you know, a music ethnographer and even, you know, autoethnographers, we have this awesome responsibility in terms of bringing social experience of the self to life. And we're at that interstice in between, and what happens in that in-between moment is an awesome responsibility. And for both papers, that's one of the things I was thinking was what you were getting at, but obviously in very different ways. So thank you both.
I love that contribution. Thank you. I'd love to follow up on it. Thank you.
I'll just put it in the chat. If you Google that, I'm sure you'll find her. It's not a very creative piece, but I've always found it very inspiring.
Thanks so much. It's lovely to get some feedback and a contribution from people in the room. So I really appreciate it. When we face to face, that often doesn't happen. So thank you.
Okay, so thank you everyone for the session this afternoon. Let's say goodbye just for a moment, or first of all, claps, finger snaps, much love everybody for coming and listening to the two papers today, and thank you Veronica and Donna. And I think it's now time to flip out of this room into the main link for Craig's making session. So I'll see you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.